howdy. I don't say this right yet, but good
You're
afternoon.
learning.
Good afternoon. My name is Juergen Steinmetz, and I'm joining you today with Peter Tarlow. We're both in Texas. Peter is in College Station, and I'm in Dallas. And I have to say, I visited Peter for the first time a couple of weeks ago in College Station. I've been absolutely impressed with your little town. It's not a little town. The campus alone is more than 40, is it 42 miles, you told me?
Well, it's from one extreme end to the other, taking in all the fields, it would be 40 miles. Yes.
Unbelievable.
And that's not the main campus. The main campus is about 3-4 square miles. But if you will go across it, and that counts also the airport, which is on campus territory, and you drove it with me. So you saw just how vast it is.
Yeah, and I have to say, Peter, you're a very known figure in College Station. One of the things what really impressed me, you showed me the synagogue. I forgot the name of it.
Hello.
And yeah, and you said they brought the stone in from Jerusalem, from the Jerusalem wall. How in the world did you do that?
Well, what
And you
happened
built
was,
this, right?
yes, I built it. I was the one responsible for building it. It was a project that was supposed to cost us $8.5 million, but we built it about 10 years ago. It was 2004. If you remember, there was a downturn in the economy, and so building became cheaper. So I never got to the $8.5 million to build it, but the price went down to $6.5 million, and I had $6.5 million. And then I was going to bring in stone from Austin, and it's called in Texas Austin stone, but in College Station there's a rivalry between College Station and Austin, so I changed the name to Central Texas stone. And then I said, let me see, it looks very similar to Jerusalem stone, to what you saw. So I said, I wonder how much it would cost if we got the stone from Jerusalem. So we called a quarrier there in Israel, and the price they gave us, including the shipment, was cheaper than the stone from Austin. So I said, why do we want the substitute? We're going for the original.
Exactly.
Now, it took 9 months or 10 months. They had to put it on ships because it was so heavy. And it took 7 to 10 months, depending on the shipment, to get to the port of Galveston from Israel. And then it was brought by truck to College Station. So the building was about a year later in construction because we had to wait for the stone, but that is original Jerusalem stone.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
It's like getting shipment from China for $1 projects, and you get it shipped for the money. Here you would pay $1 for the postage alone, you know? So
And then one of the things, as you saw, we built a model of the Western Wall in which faces the football stadium, and people come and they put prayers on the wall prior to the football games. So,
I guess that doesn't hurt, does it?
Yes, I told you there were 4 holy cities in the world: Mecca, Jerusalem, Rome, and College Station. And you don't come to College Station, you make a pilgrimage to College Station in the Aggie tradition. So you have done your first pilgrimage to College Station.
So do you have over-tourism in College Station?
We do at times, yes, and that's a topic we should talk about because we really have 3 or 4 different types of tourism. There are people who come for the George Bush Presidential Library and things like that. We have people who come for academic affairs because this is such a huge university, and there are a lot of professors who come for academic meetings, which is a form of tourism. We have a major center for technology and for AI and stuff like that. And so you have a lot of people who come in, and it's business tourism, but it's still tourism. And then the biggest part of the tourism world is football. And I think you saw our stadium, which is the largest stadium in the United States. And not long ago, they had the George Strait concert here. Was the biggest concert in the history of the United States.
Wow. The
official numbers were 110,000. The real numbers were close to 120,000. Prior to that, the largest concert in the world, not the United States, but in the world, was at the Meadowlands in New Jersey, which had about 100,000 people. So this was the George Strait concert was the biggest concert in the world, broke a Guinness World Record, and it shows you how in the stadium, putting everybody together, they had 122,000 people. Now that's great, except the stadium, as you saw, is in the middle of the city, and when everybody leaves, you have thousands of cars with thousands of people on a city street. So that becomes a little bit of a question.
Takes
But
some time.
it does, yes. But normally we don't have that much tourism. But we do. But if you think of the amount of sports that comes to College Station, both for football and other types of sports, that's a real form of tourism. The other thing is, which I was teasing you about, but it's true, and that is pilgrimage. In other words, there are literally thousands, tens of thousands of former students. In Aggie parlance, you're not allowed to say alumni. That's a forbidden word. But you said former students. And these people come on pilgrimage. And they want to spend time in College Station and reminisce. And many of them are now building homes here. So shockingly enough, we actually have a pilgrimage tourism industry where people come and they pilgrimage and they walk the streets of College Station and they walk through the campus. And then there are a lot of campus traditions such as Elephant Walk, and there's a very holy day which is called Muster, which is in April, and that's when they remember. It's a beautiful ceremony where they remember any student who's died in the past, and the campus is blacked out at evening and with candlelight, and they list any died during that year, and truly people come from all over the world to come to Muster. So it's truly it's a quasi-religious day, to say the least.
So I notice you have a good number of hotels. You also have AirBNB and
Yes,
College Station.
Yes, we do. We have lots of them. One down the street from me, and of course that's leading to a real important issue, which is the whole issue of over-tourism and Airbnbs and what's called short-term rentals. And as you know, in many parts of the world now, that's becoming a real question. Probably, I think Barcelona is probably the lead in this in Spain, but I could be wrong. But they're certainly the most famous, where they've had this major a major explosion of anti-tourism sentiment. The height was when they started shooting visitors with water pistols. Now they weren't guns; they were water pistols. I want to make that clear. But still, if you're sitting at Cathay and somebody comes up and runs and starts shooting at you with a water pistol and saying tourists go home, and Barcelona, I believe, by the end of this year will make all short-term rentals illegal. So that and it's now coming to the parliament in Spain. So it could go nationwide. And I think this is taking place in many other cities around the world. So there's a real struggle between hotels, short-term rentals, over-tourism, under-tourism, too much tourism, too little tourism. It's a big question.
Yeah, and when this all started, I myself was renting through AirBNB one of my rooms once in a while, and it was all legal. At that time, the hotels were going against it. This was in Hawaii, because hotels didn't want to lose business to private rentals. And then the issue came, we're going to have too many tourists because the hotels are full. Plus we have the Airbnb, and that's more than what we calculated for. And then, of course, one thing come after another. It created a shortage of housing, especially affordable housing. And one thing comes to another. So I understand these guys with the water pistol. I know you have, if you really want to get wet in the water pistol and have a lot of fun, just on the sideline, you should go to Thailand. In April at Songkran, the new year in Thailand, everyone gets shot with the water pistol. And I remember when I was at Songkran, during the time they had almost like a civil war, and they had the army on the streets and with machine guns. and so forth, I saw the kids shooting the soldiers with a water pistol, and the soldiers had a machine gun, and under the machine gun, they had a water pistol and shot back. So it can be a lot of fun, but it can also be annoying, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you're sitting at a cafe and somebody starts shooting at you, uh, by the way, in College Station we have a tradition with water pistols too. It's during what's called Elephant Walk, and it's when the seniors are considered to be as dead as an elephant, and we have real elephants who walk on the campus. And so
that must be from Thailand then.
Well, I don't know where or India, wherever elephants, I don't know where elephants, they bring them.
Right.
They have elephants walking around the campus, and then the underclassmen shoot the seniors with water pistols, and they don't shoot visitors; they only shoot the seniors. But you cannot buy a water pistol for miles around College Station when Elephant Walk takes place. So, yes, that's when you come to College Station again, you'll have to see the water pistols and Elephant Walk, and you get to see a real life elephant walking around the campus. But let's go back to the issue of the Airbnbs. And I know the Hawaii situation very well because when that was a big issue, I was writing for the state of Hawaii a number of papers on the dangers that were and security issues. And one of the things that we were really afraid about is there was absolutely no regulations of the Airbnb. In other words, no one, there were no fire codes. No one knew who was there. There was no registration. We were worried about the fact, could they be used for human trafficking or sex trafficking? Could they be centers for drugs? And again, you go to a hotel, there's a front desk, and you are registered. You have to show identification. You have to say who you are and show, a driver's license or a passport or something. And in Airbnb, you make a regulation, we shouldn't say Airbnb, but let's call it a short-term rental. You might make it over the internet. Nobody knows who you are. Maybe they left the key under the door, which was what we had in Hawaii under the mat, or in a little key box or something like that. They gave you a code to get into the key box. And it really became a problem in Hawaii from the perspective of security and safety. And right. It was, then of course, I finished my project, so I don't know how Hawaii dealt with it, but it was a really hot issue 10 years ago when I was working in Hawaii.
Yeah, it really has become an issue, but Hawaii is almost at a stage where it's almost fanatic against everything what is environmental in any way. Even you mentioned the word sustainability, vacation rentals, and it's really overreacting, I think, in many ways. When you look at Spain or Barcelona, you may not really have the same situations, because it's the same with Venice. You see so many tourists, and I can understand people get frustrated by this, not only because of a housing crisis, but also it takes their own identity away somehow.
They feel they're living in Disneyland versus living in their community. And there are times, and I'm not saying this is of all tourists, but there are many tourists who, they come up, they take your picture without permission, they turn you into an actor in a surrealistic play when you're living your life. And you can see where those people become very frustrated. On the other hand, the other side of that is that tourism brings in a lot of money. A lot of people would not have those jobs if it weren't for the tourism industry. And how we create this balance so that we have, let's put in quotes, good tourists, people who are respectful of the culture, who add to the economy, but don't destroy it. That's a really hard issue. And one of the big issues on the short-term housing, on short-term rentals, is that you can make a lot more money if you have a short-term rental than if you just rent your house out for a year to a single person. But that means you don't know who that person on the street. No one knows who that person is. And there, the problem is then those are houses that are taken off the market. Now we see in some places in Texas, which have had a lot of this problem, such as well, I won't say the cities, but a number of cities in Texas that are real tourism centers. Whole streets have now been turned into short-term rentals. There are no local people living on the streets anymore. And what's happened is firefighters, police officers, teachers can't find housing. So they can't afford to live in the community, and they had to move out of the community so that somebody comes in and buys 10 homes and turns them into short-term property. So you could see where the community would be resentful to that.
Yeah, as of June 2023, for instance, here in the city of Dallas, it still allows short-term rentals, but it's only in certain zoning districts. So I think that's one of the way the government tries to get up on this. And rentals now must be registered. Also, owners of short-term rentals have to pay hotel occupancy tax.
Yes. That was another issue that cities were losing. It doesn't solve the problem that you don't know who's coming. And one of the big problems I was facing in Utah when I was working there is scams. And what I mean by a scam is somebody's going to come from Australia and they want, I've just made that up, or whatever place it is, and they want to rent a house in the winter for skiing, because if you're in a place like Utah, skiing is very big. So they see on the internet house such and such a street, and you have to send in $2,000 or $3,000, whatever it is. You get to Utah, and you know what? The house doesn't exist. The person just created a make-believe address. The person abroad doesn't know that. They've now out $2,000 or $3,000. The crime took place in Cyberland, where what police department is responsible? They go to the local Utah police, and the Utah police say, but no crime existed in our community. This happened on the internet. There are no internet police. So
but then, of course, you have companies behind it, like AirBNB. If you use the AirBNB platform, of course, you can go after AirBNB, I would assume.
I assume so. But not everybody is on an Airbnb.
Right.
Or, in other words, and a lot of times if people go to the internet, they see, they look for rental homes. And they believe that people believe what they see on the internet, and so it's become a real scam. Also, sometimes people use one of these big companies as make-believe, but they're really not even connected with those companies. And most visitors are so excited in the middle of the high season, be the winter or the summer, to get a place, they don't take the time to check it out, to make sure, and so the scamming problem is especially big. The other time that takes place is with college students who arrive with almost no money. They have just enough money to eat. They've already paid for their housing. And you know what? If you go to a place like Park City, Utah, where housing is really expensive, and rentals are extreme, and you end up there and that house doesn't exist, or they take a real address. I rent out, I won't say your address on the air, but I have your address, and I put it and I rent it out.
Yeah. And you got guests on your door, right? It's mine.
and somebody knocks on your door coming to live there, and you say, what are you talking about? I didn't rent it. Well,
I would ask how much you want to pay. I'm just kidding.
Well, you're a nice guy, but you understand, somebody might not be very happy, if I knock on your sister's door in Düsseldorf, Germany, I just rented your house for a week. And it's not how much you want to pay. I've already paid for it. So
it's not only, but it can also go the other way around. I have a friend in California, I'm not going to say who and where, but he rented out in his house, he owns his basement. to two people. And this was supposed to be short time for a month, and they never moved out. It's now more than a year and a half, and even though
So
it went through the court, you cannot get them out anymore.
So the law is that if a person's there for 30 days, they're no longer, at least in Texas, I don't know, it's state by state, so I'm going to have to just quote Texas law. But in Texas, if you're at a place for more than 30 days, you are no longer considered a short-term resident. You're considered by the state law, you're now considered to be a full-time resident of that place.
Right.
And that means that you now have all the protection of a renter. In other words, if I rent an apartment for a year, the state has certain protections for me because I'm a long-term renter. Well, 30 days switches me over. So if I don't move out on the 30th day, the owner has a major problem. These people, and now that really, and if you think back to COVID, and we put a lot of laws in, if you remember, protecting renters, where you couldn't throw people out because they said they couldn't work, and it was a whole bunch of really silly thought through laws. But those laws now are in effect. So now, if I'm in your house, I come to visit you for 30 days, or I rent from you for 30 days. So it'd be better saying, you rent out your house for 30 days. I'm not leaving. How do you get rid of me?
So how long do you think this can drag out?
Well, I think the fight between the landlord and the I think it depends on each state. So some states like New York are really renter friendly. Other states are much less renter friendly. I know in Texas it's coming to a question in the legislature that you will be able to get the person out, but it will have to be in this legislative session. But it's an issue because each state is different, each country is different, and you can't expect the visitor to know the laws of every place he's going or she's going.
And that's what it is. I mean, I remember before the times of eTurbo News, I had a vacation rental company in Honolulu. We actually had more than 200 units. So, and I had a case I never forget in a nice vacation rental on the North Shore, a villa rental. And we put some locals in there, what really we didn't do, but business was bad. We only rented to tourists, and they were in there and they rented for 1 month. And after this, they didn't move out. And so then I had tourists coming in, paying a fortune to stay there. We had nothing to rent to them. And to make it even worse, they were cooking drugs in this apartment. And when I looked through the window, I saw it. So I called the police and I said, what do you want us to do? You want us to arrest you for looking into the window?
Yeah. Because they now had resident rights. Now,
yes.
I don't remember Hawaii law, but I think Hawaii law was also, if you're in a place for 30 days, then it became your homestead. And so you are now invading their homestead, and you are the criminal, they're not.
Yes, so it's a crazy law. But anyways, I think Airbnb has issues and problems, but it still remains, I think, the largest hotel or accommodation company in the world. So they're quite powerful. So it must be working, and there must be Airbnb. Yeah. They're doing well, I think, regardless.
Yeah, well, from the perspective of the customer, it's a very good deal because hotels are very expensive. And if you're traveling with children, or you're going for 2 weeks, you're much better off in an Airbnb than you are, or the equivalent, whatever company it is, than you are maybe just in a hotel at $300 or $400, whatever the hotel is charging a night, and you have a place to cook, you have more room, a place for your children to run around. So you see why Airbnb would be very successful. So the issue is, how do we create caring about the visitor at the same time that we have the problem of protecting the neighborhoods and neighborhood integrity? And that's really going to be a big issue. And, I think it's going to take place community by community. I think this is really a big issue in Europe. I think it's a bigger issue in Europe than it may be in part of the United States, but it's starting in the United States also. And we're seeing more and more laws saying that you may not have a short-term rental for more than 29 days, or whatever. So this is going to be in a really important area in the tourism industry. And we don't have enough hotels. Hotels and motels are expensive in the United States, as they are in Europe. And
Right.
especially we want family visitations and we want families to be able to travel together. Now, will those families end up camping? Will they end up going to, will up the Winnebagos? But then that whole issue of when you're driving with a Winnebago or some form of big truck, camper, then people say, well, that uses too much gas and that's not good for the environment. So how we, there used to be the whole issue of sustainability in tourism, and that's now become a really interesting issue because when you say it's sustainable by this, it becomes unsustainable by the other side of it. So there is no perfection. This is going to take a lot of effort to figure it out.
Yeah, and caravan or mobile rental for caravans and for large vehicles where you can stay overnight is big business, especially in Europe. I can tell you my former home city, Düsseldorf, has the largest exhibition every year. It's the largest exhibition in the world about caravans. And it's actually coming up, I think, in a week or two. It's the beginning after this high summer season. That's, I think, in a week from now.
Caravans are, for people who don't know,
these are people, they go on vacation, they live in their camper, they go and
so it's campsites. Like campsites of America, I think it is, or is
they're vehicles, and some of them are wonderful. I mean, I even saw one when I was there. They had a small pool on the deck, what was covered.
Now, how much gas do those use? How environmental?
They must. I don't know, but I don't think they're cheap in gas. And when you look at the gas prices in Europe being double, at least from what we're paying here, that can be getting quite expensive. Actually, my colleague who is about to retire, Michael, who's has been running eturbonews.de, he bought a campmobile on the last thing, and he kind of renovated it himself. And his dream is now to take it on a trip with his wife to China. So he wants to drive it all the way from Germany to China. What is amazing, but people get really fascinated with it.
How is he going to get there? Is he going to go through Russia?
Well, from what you go to Greece, Turkey, Iran, all these little Kazakhstan, who knows?
I think he might want to think that through a little bit from a safety perspective.
No, he's convinced. And the thing is, he hardly speaks any English. I said, how are you going to do it? But no, he's actually putting it on a test run to Spain. And see how it goes to Spain first.
Going from Germany to Spain is different.
It's okay, yes.
I mean, I think he may want to think this through just a little bit more.
Well, you tell him, but he's convinced he can do it. So.
All right, good. Well, listen, I think this was a really valuable discussion. And well, I'll look forward to our next discussion. But I think it's really good for our listeners to think through the whole issue of how will we create sustainable tourism where the community benefits from the tourism industry, but suffers the minimum possible. And people don't feel like they've been moved into an amusement park, that they're living a real life, and that we are able to be good hosts or hostesses without destroying the cultural environment in which we live.
Oh, well. Great session.
Right.
We'll see you next time. And if you wanted to watch us again, just stay tuned. We're going to repeat it. And when it's done repeating, just simply go to our YouTube page. And it's linked from all our websites. And you can watch actually all our different sessions we had over the years now. And from a very hot 103 degrees,
Oh,
Dallas,
it's
Texas.
cool there. 105 in College Station.
And 105 in College Station. Stay cool. I actually talked to my colleague Adriana Berg, and actually I should mention her. She runs our new ageless tourism, ageless tourism initiative by the World Tourism Network. And she's in Greenland right now. And she told me it was 20 degrees in Greenland, so she's freezing. And she
Oh.
touched an iceberg, so it must be quite a big difference. And she's from Palm Springs, so you can see it must be a huge difference for her.
Know that in College Station, you can fry an egg on the side.
Okay.
So we're environmentally friendly. That's true solar power. You don't have to cook on a stove. You just put it on the sidewalk and your food will cook.
Perfect. And for those that are interested in our ageless tourism program or wanted to get certified or learn more about it, simply go to agelesstourism.com, agelesstourism.com, and you'll find some really good information. You actually can download a number of interesting state of the industry reports and so forth, and you can join our certification program. Well, Peter,
all right,
all the best, and we talk to you soon.
Stay cool. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.